Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida Extension Service here in Hernando County. And today I have, like we normally have, my regular co-host, Lily Browning, who is the Hernando County Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator. And I have that memorized. I didn't even have to read it or have it written down or anything.
Yeah, you always miss the word program, but it's close enough. I'm the program coordinator. I don't go out and coordinate the landscapes and tell them, how which flowers to go where. Although I could, but I'm the program coordinator.
Yeah, I know that we get requests sometimes from people for things that we just really can't do. We don't
Oh
have the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Like they want you to come by and lay out their flower beds for them. Or my favorite is, I just moved here from some other state. Can somebody come to my house and tell me what all the plants in my yard are?
yeah.
No, no, I'm sorry, we can't.
But we have
But
lots of resources to help you. Yes,
I've told people before, if you take pictures and send us a whole bunch of pictures,
sure.
and they've done that, and we've identified all of them. A lot of times it's not very difficult to identify most of the plants somebody has in their yard.
I get pictures on the weekends from friends and coworkers. What's this? Those kind of pictures. And one I got over the weekend, it was like, it's a hyacinth. I mean, it was in a pot, and I didn't expound, and, you know, I just ID'd it, but thinking, don't try putting it in the ground here. I'm sure it's like a spring gift or, something someone gave, which is going
Yeah.
to last a little while in your pot, just like a tulip might last a little while. Consider it almost like a cut flower, last maybe a little bit longer than that, but you're not going to have success growing hyacinths or tulips or daffodils here in Florida.
And technically, what you could do is you could order tulip bulbs, refrigerate them, although they're normally refrigerated and kept dormant over the winter by the tulip bulb company. Plant
Mm-hmm.
them, and they should come up and flower, but they never will again
Right,
because that summer they will die.
right.
It's
And you
just so
can't
hot
do,
and wet and steamy, they
yes,
will rot and they'll never make
yeah.
tulips again in the ground.
And yeah, you can't plant them in the fall and expect them to come up, really in the spring here. It's just something you put
Mhm.
in the ground to have like an annual, and it's going to be gone. And
Yeah,
that's very expensive to do, and it's also a large carbon footprint if you're, concerned about
hmm,
things such as that. That's why we encourage as many natives or at least Florida friendly plants, as you can have.
yeah. Here the crocuses don't come up in the spring.
Through the snow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
through the snow. No, we don't have that here. We do have southern sandspur that comes up in the spring, though. So just
That's
saying.
exciting.
Hmm.
We have lots of beautiful spring flowers. We have sky blue lupine. Boy, I could see it. I just lost its name. We have sky blue lupine, which just will blow you away because it doesn't strike you as a Florida flower. And it grows in the sandiest, yuckiest soil. There are prunus species in the woods. There are,
And they're flowering right now. They look very pretty as you're
yeah,
driving down the road out in the country.
that would be Chickasaw plum. Maybe in a few weeks might be some of the flatwood plums. They're hardly any different. They're cousins. They're both prunus, and they're both plums for the wildlife. Um, but I'm sure there are other differences, but the flatwoods, I almost called it hogwoods. The hog plums are the flatwoods plums bloom in what they were more called spring, and Chickasaw is more winter, although there's probably only like 3 weeks difference. And they probably
Yeah, and I'm not.
overlap.
Some people don't consider them different species or even different cultivars or varieties. Other experts do. So there's
Yeah.
We have a question here, and for everybody else watching, if you have a question, just go ahead and put it in the chat box, and I can see it. And if it's a really hard one, we'll have Lily work on it. And if it's pretty easy, I'll take a shot at it. And if we don't know what the heck it is, we'll figure it out. So
we'll send it to your boss, Jim Davis.
Well, he's busy with his boss at the moment. So.
Oh, okay. Well, but it'll make him look good.
Exactly. Hey, I wonder if they're busy. If I can. Jim. Yeah, they should just
bring
jump
Dr.
on
Monroe in here. Yeah.
Jim's computer and join us.
Yes.
So we got a question about a starfruit tree.
Yes. Corey's going to have to tell me if my sound sounds better because I'm using just the plain laptop, what's built into the laptop right now. So
far, I can hear you. I haven't noticed any clicking. You sound okay.
Don't sound like I'm from the 40s on the radio.
Well, then I don't know. Corey says you sound fine. So
okay, good.
So we have a question about starfruit, and they say my young starfruit tree died back a couple years ago due to a freeze. That happens. They are tropical. They are not the most freeze sensitive, but when we get down to like 32 or below, they will get damaged. A lot of times they get a lot of damage, but they don't die. They'll grow back. So theirs, it says that it's back, but it's more of a bush from the trunk. Should I leave it or leave one shoot and cut off all the other shoots out of the trunk? Starfruits tend to be kind of twiggy, bushy, branchy plants / trees anyway. So if what you have is a single trunk coming out of the ground, whatever's growing off of it, you can leave, go through it. If there's any dead stuff in the center, prune it out. Dead branches don't get any better. If there's crossing ones or ones that are damaging each other, take out one or the other. Now, if what you have is a whole group of trunks coming out of the ground, you may want to remove the thinnest, twiggiest ones and get it down to either one trunk. I tend to be greedy, and in these situations, I'll go with 2, maybe even 3 trunks, hoping that I'm going to get more in the long run. But that's me. I'm greedy when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Probably what happened is somebody, trained it into one trunk. So when it froze, it reverted back to its natural form.
Yeah. And then over time, as it gets taller, you'll probably have to remove some foliage at the very bottom, because if the bottom foliage is all laying on the ground in the mulch, that's not a good place for branches to be. The leaves are going to rot. It's going to pick up insect pests, diseases.
Sounds like it grows like a crepe myrtle, doesn't it?
Yeah, to a large extent, crepe myrtles get very, if you just let them go, get very twiggy in the center.
Oh, they get bushy too.
Yeah. I have a place in my yard, in the front yard, near the front door. I'm going to get a starfruit tree because it looks like it'd be the right plant for that size space that I have, and give it a try.
And that'll be like a warm microclimate there by the house.
Yeah, and if I position it, I could, if I had a big, I can cover it with a sheet, put a tarp from the edge of the roof down to the ground to kind of cover it. Although, like I said, I've seen starfruits get damage from temperatures below 32, but sometimes it's not an awful lot of damage. It would tend to, you can just kind of clean it up in the spring and move on.
You're right on that area of that line where they decided is 9B now. So
yeah, I am on the line.
Yeah. So you might be, that's worth a try. It's an experiment. Good morning, Cindy.
Yeah, there's a few other things that I want to try. Finger limes is a new crop. It's technically the common name for it is Australian finger limes. It's a fruit tree that's native to Australia. It gets fairly columnar shaped, kind of tall and reasonably narrow. Very, very twiggy and has huge thorns, but gets an edible fruit that you can only find at really, really high-end restaurants as kind of a gourmet item right now. technically, it can contract citrus greening because it is in the same family, Rutaceae, with domestic citrus, but does not show any symptoms of it or suffer from it. And it takes pretty cold temperatures too. So I'm going to try.
And they taste just like limes. You can make key lime pie and stuff with them. And
no, it has. If you cut the fruit open, and the fruit is shaped like a kumquat, so think small, like football shaped kind of fruits.
Fingers, like fingers.
Yeah. So if you cut it open, it has the little seeds. I think the seeds are edible, surrounded by pulp, like pomegranates. Have you ever eaten pomegranate seeds? It has the seed, but it's covered by the
pulp. Yeah.
The pulp. It looks very, very similar if you cut one open. UF has been doing research on them, and I Googled nurseries that sold them, and there's one up in the Panhandle, very nicely, not far from Carabel. So if I ever get a chance to go camping again, and we go up to Carabel, camp on the beach, I could shoot over and get one. Like $60 though, for a 3-gallon pot.
It's weird that they're growing them that far north.
Yeah, well, nursery stock, they're able to protect it if you have greenhouses. You drag all that stuff in the greenhouse. So nurseries will grow things, and you look at it, it's like, you can't grow that in your town. Oh, well, if you have a nursery, you can control the temperatures.
That's just like the cherry tree my brother bought for his yard in Pittsburgh. But he got it from, what is that right above Gainesville? Archer. He got it from a nursery in Archer. Yes, like, okay. I guess there's a certain point where they have to get them out of Florida and up to where their chilling hours and stuff are.
The whole nursery industry is amazing. They bring in plants as just little cuttings from Central America. One company buys them, pots them up, grows them out a little bit, sell them to another company to grow them out larger. They might sell them to another company. They pot them up in nice, attractive pots, wrap tinsel and bows and ribbons around it, and they're the ones who box it up and send it to Michigan for Mother's Day or Easter or whatever it might be, and they get sold to the eventual consumer there. So they can go
isn't
through.
Here, like around Center Hill and all those little villages type places that have gotten eaten by the villages. Right outside of Orlando. Isn't that like where all the ferneries in the country are?
No, that is Volusia County in Seville. Seville and the town next to it. And they still grow a ton of ferns over there.
And that's for like the floral industry.
Valentine's Day and Mother's Day is where they make all their money.
Just for the ferns they put in floral arrangements. Yeah.
Yep. And there's a couple different varieties of ferns that are grown for commercial use to go into flower arrangements. And they've been there for many, many, many years. A lot of the ferneries are family owned. They've been raising ferns for 100 years. They get especially damaged by the once every 50-year freezes. And then all of a sudden there's like no ferns for Valentine's Day.
Interesting.
Because I have asparagus fern that grows up underneath my hedges out front. So if I wanted to save some money for Valentine's Day, I could just grab some of that to go with the roses.
And then you would be pulling an invasive species. So yeah, that's a win-win. We'll see if Nora goes for that. Oh, I have put together.
Just blame the thorns on Walmart or wherever I got the roses.
I have put together, homemade floral arrangements with all kind of things from outside. And here comes a publication about fabulous ferns from Teresa.
Yes, Teresa is obviously on today, and she is great at sharing University of Florida fact sheets based on whatever we happen to be rambling on about.
You know what?
So
She is just like Google.
she is.
You say something and she'll pop something up about that.
So
She's
I'll
just,
show these for everybody. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you probably don't see it in the chat because this is just on our office's Facebook page chat. But if you want to look up Fabulous Ferns before you try writing all those letters and slashes and dots and everything else, just write down Fabulous Ferns. And later on, if you Google UF or University of Florida Fabulous Ferns, boom, you're going to find it. It's going to come up right after the ads on Google.
or IFAS. IFAS.
Or IFAS, you could look up IFAS, Fabulous Ferns, or EDIS, EDIS,
Well, that's
Fabulous
getting
Ferns.
too hard now. IFAS is the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. That is what other states would call their College of Agriculture. And Florida, UF calls it the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. That's what IFAS means. So if you Google ferns, UF, ferns, IFAS, you will find all the publications that UF and the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences has on that subject or any other subject that you put in front of it. And believe me, I do it all the time. I'm putting together for a program for March 3rd, which will be a Friday at noon, a lunch and learn. And this is like a program from scratch. So it's not like I can't take old PowerPoints and just kind of redo them. Fragrantly Florida friendly. So I'm using, well, one thing I'm using is a book of lists that was written by several UF specialists. It's kind of neat because this book of lists puts, if you're looking for red flowers that bloom in summer, they have a list for that. So I'm going through fragrant bushes, fragrant trees, fragrant, as well as there's a publication on fragrant plants, that from UF. So I work off of those things too. I don't just have all this knowledge inside. Some of it gets there, but that's what I do is I research these UF resources and put it together in a, more layperson's terms for everyone. So.
Exactly, because University of Florida is going to have the information that applies to Florida. There are lots of other great publications by land-grant universities around the country. Cornell has a lot of information, believe it or not, about birds. They have a fantastic bird program.
Yeah, they do. Cornell has a huge bird program. You're right. They have that app to identify the bird sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we occasionally get information from Texas A&M,
yep,
University of Georgia,
oh yeah,
North Carolina State, and
Louisiana.
South Carolina has good information also. But that's specific to that state, and things may be a little bit different here. So they may have the same insect there as we have here. We've had to use them other states. Believe it or not, if you want good information on moles and how to control them, Arizona State, I think that's their land-grant university, has a lot of good information.
If we can't find it from UF, we're going to try and look from the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
Or Louisiana State University, or Clemson, because they are likely to maybe have, but finding it, as Cindy says here, from Rutgers, or it's actually Penn State is their land-grant university, not the University of Pennsylvania, but the University of Pennsylvania might have some great information. They're just not as likely to apply to us. University of Michigan is not as likely to apply to us. That's why we try to stay in the southeastern states. Not saying they wouldn't have good information, but you have to then take it and say, does this apply to Florida? Florida is unique. That's how we
and there's so many things that grow up there that do not grow down here. We hear it all the time. Where do I buy rhododendrons to put in front of my new house in Hernando County? You don't want to do that.
We got some lovely azaleas for you.
Yeah, if you have some natural shade, if your house
Sure.
came with a big oak tree, that's going to be really good. If you just stick them out in the full sun and they're all dying,
Right.
and you email me, why are they all dying? I know the answer. Because they don't do well in full sun. Too hot.
Yes. But if you're looking for the mountain laurel rhododendron, not here.
So Cindy has something that looks like a fern growing. You once talked about a fake one versus a real one. I think this is a fake. It's growing like a weed. A few are nice, but now too many. What was the way to determine if it's a weed? Well, technically, if you don't want it growing there, for you, in your situation, you can put it under the heading of weed. We do have an invasive plant called an asparagus fern, and that's because the foliage looks like a fern. It's a light green. Looks pretty attractive. I mean, if you took some and put it in a flower arrangement, it would look attractive. It's got thorns, though. Little thorns that you really don't notice until you make the mistake of trying to pull it up with your bare hands. You will be going inside at the end of the day with some thorns in you. They'll tear you up.
She also may be referring to the sword fern or Boston fern, and I can't remember it's Nephra something.
Yeah.
The Latin name, Teresa, for the invasive fern. Basically, if it's growing all through the woods and you didn't put it there, that's a pretty good chance that it is the invasive sword fern. It gets called Boston fern, and then you make people mad because there is a non-invasive Boston fern. That's the problem with common names.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. It is Nephra or something. But how you can tell, Cindy, is go out and pull one up, and if it has orange balls on the roots, then that is the invasive sword fern.
Yeah, and that's has a potential to spread. What some people will do is every spring they rip up 99% of it and it grows back.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
if you want some in your yard, maybe it fell off a potted fern that you bought at a big box store. Maybe the spores just blew in. I mean, the spores blow around in the breeze. But if it's got those little balls in the ground around the roots, it's the invasive one, and it's always going to be a problem. You may want to think about if you have a spot where ferns look nice, it's shady, they're doing well, ripping up all the invasive one and purchasing a native fern to put in its place.
Right. But it's going to be a battle for the rest of your life. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it is pretty true. Yeah, they're grape looking, but they're pretty orange.
Yeah, they are. They can be the size of a grape.
Yep.
And pigs like to eat the storage part of those roots. So
okay, but then they're going to replant them with fertilizer. So that's not necessarily a solution there. See, Corey, you forced us to bring poop up. And we are 23 minutes in.
So if you hold on just a second, on that note, I just learned something from that. So if you guys have learned anything at all and you haven't had a chance to take our very, very short painless survey, please do so. I went ahead and put a link in the chat, and that should be coming up. So if you click on that, it goes to a Qualtrics secure survey, and we will not blow you up with emails or spam or ads or anything. And that's just a couple questions just to get an idea of, did you learn anything, so that when I have my annual review, which I have today at 11 a.m. in about a half an hour in the other room, that way I can tell my superiors, like, hey, people actually learned something when Lily and I came on the virtual plant clinic every week. So along with being fun, it's supposed to be educational too.
Cindy says there are no orange balls on these. Make sure you can't see them unless you pull them up. Yeah, you have to look on the roots. And they'll, like when you pull one up, you might have 2 or 3 of these orange balls on they're real easy to pull up out of the
Yeah.
sand. Very easy. And you'll see those. It'll be pretty evident. And, if you don't see it on the first couple, go ahead and pull up 5 or 6 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you pull them up, look in the ground where it came from. And sword ferns do tend to make a really thick mat.
Mm-hmm.
To remove them, you could literally kind of dig up one edge and roll it back like a carpet to get the majority of the volume of it. But if it's sword ferns, you look down and there's 6 million of those little orange grapes in the ground. Then you got to get all them too to keep it from coming back. So it's the kind of thing that if you pull it all up at once and you keep checking on it, you keep your eyes open as they pop up, pick them one by one. Eventually you'll win. It just takes a little time.
If you mow it, if it's an area that you mow and you mow it constantly, that will also keep it in check anyway. Make it not as hospitable.
Yeah. Hit it with glyphosate. Glyphosate is very effective on killing it. We want to give people all the options. So here is a very, very good question. Somebody has a mango tree that has a beetle, possibly an ambrosia beetle, that has burrowed into the tree. I've cut the 2 limbs that show damage and burned them. I don't see evidence in the trunk, but I'm concerned it may be in more limbs. Anything I could do further to be proactive? Depends on exactly what kind of beetle you have. Ambrosia beetles are very, very tiny beetles that will drill holes into your tree, and most every tree has a species of ambrosia beetle that will feed on it. What they do, they drill in and you see something out of the trunk of your tree. It looks like a little pencil shavings, almost sawdust that's sticking out. Here, let me do some visualize here. So okay, here's the trunk. It's going to stick out like this out of the trunk or out of the branch, and you're looking, well, what the heck is that? And if you tap it, it's just sawdust. It falls away. That's ambrosia beetle damage. Not a whole lot you can do if you have ambrosia beetles. We have a lot of species here. We have invasive species. We have native species. Pretty much every native tree here has ambrosia beetles. What they do is they basically finish off trees that were damaged by freezes, droughts, fires. So if your mango tree was stressed and damaged by cold during the winter, makes it a lot more susceptible to ambrosia beetles. I had to go look at some nursery trees here in Hernando County a few years ago, and they had ambrosia beetles and they had split bark, because a lot of the trees were in like 20-gallon pots, and they were, 6 feet tall. So trees being raised for landscaping or for new home construction we put in yards, a lot of them were damaged, and a lot of them had secondary beetles from the freeze damage they got. Best thing you can do is just keep a real close eye on it. If you do have ambrosia beetles, they will make themselves obvious. You'll see sawdust. So look for the little sawdust squiggles coming out like a pencil out of the branches or trunk, or look on the ground at the base of the trunk for sawdust that has come out of holes. So we have ambrosia beetles. We have other beetles that will drill into damaged trees. If you start to have a lot of them or a big problem, unfortunately, the tree is a goner. Not a whole lot you can do about that.
And the beetles themselves are very, very, very small. You have a graphic where they fit on Lincoln's nose on a penny. Yeah, they're that small.
And Teresa put up a link. University of Florida has a ton of information on them. We have a University of Florida researcher, Dr. Jiri, Jiri, Holzer, who moved here from, I believe, Czechoslovakia, and he's one of the world's preeminent experts on bark beetles and ambrosia beetles.
There is no
took a couple-day course with him. He's great. We went on a field trip. We went out and we dug through bark and found beetles and saw the damage. And I have the ID guides. Boy, there's a lot of them. And they're pretty nondescript, little teeny tiny beetles. And they can do a lot of damage in the wrong situation. So if you're trying to grow the wrong trees, they're stressed, they're damaged, We always lose pine trees every year. Some years we lose a lot of pine trees here to bark beetles.
And the
So
Ips
very, very
beetles.
good question and very big problem.
What the stressed tree does is it emits a pheromone that attracts these insects, saying, "Here's your buffet." But they're not going to come to a healthy tree. So it's the stressed trees that they come after.
All depends. Some of the invasive ones are more than happy to attack the healthiest of trees.
Oh, okay.
And they're the most dangerous ones.
The native, like the Ips beetle and stuff, they're only going after probably stressed pine trees. And
they're going after stressed, damaged, sick, injured trees as their first choice, because that's the easiest one, because the tree doesn't have much defenses anymore. And then they're going to move on kind of from there. But with the native ones, if you grow trees in the right place, you grow them correctly, get the irrigation, everything else correct, your chances of having beetle problems are much, much lower. There's an ornamental shrub, I can't remember the name of it, in South Florida down in Miami. And they love putting it in shopping center parking lots. You know, the little flower beds that are about 3 feet by 3 feet? They love to put like an oak tree in. Hey, if a baby one fits, it fits, right? And it's surrounded by pavement, hot cars, scorching hot pavement all summer long. They almost always get ambrosia beetles down there because they are so stressed from being put in a terrible environment for any plant that they always get ambrosia beetles.
Cindy has emailed us her ferns, and I get the spinning wheel of death on my phone, so maybe you can open it from your computer and show it.
Sure, give me a second.
Oh,
Let me
here it
open up my email
It's so hard to tell.
in this browser. Technology is great, but it's really confusing sometimes. We're opening it, and here we go. Let me go back into StreamYard and try to share my screen.
They are very hard to identify, Corey. You're right. I mean, like I said, the only way I know to do it is to pull those up.
And there we go. This is
Yeah.
one picture. And it could be a sword fern.
It could certainly be.
If you try pulling up some of the bigger
Right.
fronds, you have a better chance of finding the little orange balls.
See those big ones there? Grab a bunch from the bottom and just yank them up. Otherwise, there really is no way to tell. I mean, unless you're a fernologist. Is that a word?
I don't know what that would be. Botanist. Botanist is best.
Fern botanist, yes.
When I get a chance later on, I'll go ahead and send the pictures. So Cindy, if you don't find little orange balls and you're still not really sure what kind of fern this is, send me another couple pictures and I'll send them off to our herbarium expert, Mark Frank, and let him identify what kind of fern it is.
Yeah, Corey's right. Sometimes they stay when you pull. So like you said before, dig around in the ground too. See if
and he'll know exactly what species it is. Well, exactly what kind of fern it is.
Yeah.
And he'll answer it in probably 10 minutes. That's his average response time.
Yep. I remember the days when we would have to mail him plants and they would get there unidentifiable and he would yell at us. He would always ID it, but we always had to be yelled at first. But he knew what it was.
Back in the good old days, yes, before fantastic cameras in phones like this, and you can see, I don't even have to get off my phone. I just send it.
I would press things between newspapers and send them up every week.
And we'd have to be printing these University of Florida fact sheets and mailing them to people.
Sure, or they'd come by.
So yeah, Cindy, when I get a chance, I'll go ahead and send that off this afternoon.
Some people get very happy that they have something that fills in the spaces, so they either leave the ferns there or go plant them, under their oak trees or whatever. And there was a time when I did that, not knowing any better. Like, look, hey, free plants. When you
And
know better, you do better.
we have a spot at our Master Gardener nursery where, I mean, they predate me. There's a big patch of them.
They
And
predate
they have
everything.
spread right next to us is a wooded area. So of course they've spread right into the woods.
Sure.
Other side of the fence, we can't get to them anymore.
No, they're there happily with the Caesar weed. And we should do a Facebook Live on invasive plants at the nursery. It's not the plants that they're selling, it's the ones encroaching on them because of the land that is there. And that is it's a strip of clay that goes through our county that your nursery happens to be on. Brooksville itself is in an oceanic fern botanist, a tutorologist, pteridologist. Thank you.
I learned 2 things today.
Yes. It's like a pterodactyl. I wonder if that has that ptera. What does that usually mean? That usually means 2 wings, doesn't it, or something?
Ptera has to do with the grouping that ferns fall under.
And see, I'm thinking because pterodactyl and ferns are some of the oldest plants that exist. I wonder if that etymology, not entomology, if that etymology there has anything to do with the time frame when they both, were on Earth. Because ferns, they weren't the absolute first plant. Do we know? Do you know what the first land plant probably was?
Not ferns, it'd be some type of algae.
Well, okay. Progressed beyond algae.
But ferns are vascular plants.
Right.
They just don't contain true seeds, and they don't make true flowers.
Right.
So they're in their own special little group.
I lost the name of Zamia Kuntis. They were some of the very first land plants that grew as actual plant-looking plants. Are Kuntis.
And they are vascular, and they don't have true flowers and seeds. They bear cones.
Mm-hmm. So if you have any Kuntis out there, know that those were around with the dinosaurs.
Yep.
Pretty.
So I know that I need to go shortly so that I'm ready for when they call me in.
Did you see that? Okay, before you answer that. If people want to spend a bunch of money, or if you have a yearly pass to go to Zoo Tampa, I think that's what it's called now. It used to be the Lowry Park Zoo. They've got this Bugtopia thing going on with animatronic huge insects. Now it's a display that goes all over the country, so they're not specifically Florida insects. That would make it ultra cool, but they are, I think they said they have like 24 or something insects that, you feel like you've shrunk down when you walk through them. So if you have the opportunity, I think that would be a cool thing. And I think it's staying like this weekend through April or something, but look it up on their website. And if you have a season pass or want to take kids there, it could be very educational, I think.
Yeah, I prefer real insects, but I've been to the museum in New Orleans that has the huge insect collection. And that was pretty cool to see.
Well, these are animatronic big insects.
They're robots, and robots are going to take over.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why we need to plan. So the class that we were thinking about putting together about when the grid crashes, should we change that to when the robots invade?
Sure, if you want to. I didn't know we were putting that class together, but
Will-
okay.
Will people start to wonder about us if we do that?
I think we'll get a whole new audience.
I think so. Okay, we're gonna have to discuss that one later, folks. So it's not on Facebook yet. It's not a definite plan. It's just a thought. It's an idea.
It's Bill's
So,
idea.
Lori
I
asked
came up with
what
this
I'm
idea.
going to do this week.
What are you planning this week, Bill? In your victory
This
garden?
weekend, it's time for my tomato transplants to start going in the ground. My pepper transplants to start going in the ground. I'm going to go ahead and plant the pole beans and the bush beans. I'm gambling that it's warm enough. I might be wrong. Or if we have like one cold night, I have enough sheets I can cover everything, and I should be okay. If we have a 2-week long extended cold period, then I'm just replanting. After that, I guess everything will be pretty much destroyed. But I read an article just yesterday that North Florida watermelon farmers are probably going to be planting their watermelons like now.
Yeah, I
And
heard that.
it's early for them. But
Yeah.
to catch, they know if they plant them now, they're going to harvest them on this date. And that's when they catch a really, really good price on watermelons. They're going to make the most money.
Because
And
they're the
they're
only
gonna
ones
be-
available. Yeah, because they're the only ones who
Yep.
have the watermelon. They do that with blueberries, strawberries, and then if we can do it 2 weeks before Georgia, then that's 2 weeks when we're the only ones making money on that particular product.
Yep.
So that's the next-
Blueberries. They
Mhm.
try to hit the blueberry time period when chili is done. And obviously, from Georgia north, the blueberries aren't ready yet. So the only blueberries in the world or in your grocery store potentially come from Florida, and they're going to get the best price.
Speaking of such things, you skipped over Monique's question
Oh.
here.
I'm sorry.
How does the native butterfly weed come back? Slowly. Got lots of tropical weed ones returning, of course, but the native one is just a few sticks, which I have been so good not to cut down yet. That is great. Thank you for not cutting it down yet, because you might have some tiny native bees or something living in there. The native ones know it's not time yet. Your tropical ones, they're just going to grow and grow and grow. That's just what they do. So I would cut them back, even if it hurts, and then start letting them grow however they want in a month or so. Your native ones, they're just a lot slower of a grower. They may be up and doing their thing like by May. But the Mexican ones, the tropical ones, that's why you're explaining right there why they're more popular to sell, because they grow more, and therefore the stores can sell them. The native ones, even though they are much, much better to use, they're slow growers. But you also have to keep in mind the native ones are more adept to, because they've been here for however long, a million years, they're more adept to our climate and what our climate is doing, and the best time to come up. So let it do its thing, but in another month you can cut back the old icky part of the native and then start letting the tropical growing. But don't go buy any more tropical, because there's lots of issues, potential issues with that tropical milkweed. That would be my advice on that.
Yeah, we have some of the different native milkweeds right out in front of our office, and they haven't come back.
Yeah,
They
not
won't.
yet. It's not time. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just writing down Corey's title here.
Yeah, you can do that one on your own. I'm not going to be involved in that.
The key will be finding the correct graphic. I don't know how graphic to get with the graphic.
You have fun with that.
Oh, I could have a lot of fun with that.
I want to remind everyone before you go that for those who are listening from Hernando County, about our 1 day a week watering rules, which have been in effect for about 12 years, but people are acting like they're learning this for the first time because they're being fined. And Bill so graciously invited me to join a local Facebook group. Aye, Bill. But there was
one of the Spring Hill groups.
There was one very interesting one, and it made its way to our big boss too. He found it very interesting.
Good. Did he know that it came from me? So I'm aware of what's going on?
Possibly, yes.
Okay, good.
Anyway, somebody made a comment that, be careful, you'll get a fine, you don't even get a warning. I mean, if you've been violating for 16 years, I think you've had enough. You don't really get a warning. If they catch you, you will get a fine of $100. Second time, $500. Third time, appearing before a special magistrate. And just so you know, we have hired 2 new code enforcement officers. Code enforcement has hired them, not us. And their entire job, they're water resource officers. All they're looking for are water restriction violators. They've been fining people, therefore it finds its way to Facebook groups. And as Bill said, this is probably the only way it's going to make an impact. Because the people who listen to our classes and our what we offer, they're saving water. Your regular, people out there, some of those comments are like, well, I can't use all the words, but it's who are they to tell us what to do with our water? And I mean, the selfishness involved is mind-boggling.
And the funny thing is, a lot of people blamed the poster who got a $100 fine on her neighbors calling in.
They're all saying it's your neighbors calling in. Somebody doesn't like you.
It's because the truck drove by your house and saw the water going.
Right. Yep. And these 2 new officers pass the word to your neighbors. They work split shifts between the 2 of them. Someone will be out there in the evenings. Someone will be in gated communities. I drive into any gated community I want because I have a Hernando County logo on my van. Yes. No, not in my own car, but with that Hernando County logo on my van. So code enforcement does the same thing. And now they're working weekends and evenings. And apparently they've been pretty busy and shaking a lot of people up. And unfortunately, talking nicely for the last 12 years is not going to have as much effect as, this new program.
That's a $100 fine.
Yeah.
That apparently gets everybody's attention.
Yes.
Okay, guys, we need to go in just a second here, but we'll end on another positive idea for our potential upcoming class. I could have
you and Corey
with tanks coming over a hill with fire in the clouds in the distance. I was thinking a graphic of a city on fire. I don't want it to be too frightening, but
that's not frightening at all. You and Corey go ahead and you plan that, and I'll back out of that one.
You can attend just to see what the heck is going on.
Corey, you can talk to Frank at Code Enforcement about the job that you won. But just so everyone knows also that if you turn in your neighbor, they don't take anonymous reportings anymore. You got to say who you are. So.
But they're out driving around, so if you're watering the wrong day, the wrong time, there's a chance. There's over time a growing chance that they're going to drive past you.
I believe I said last week, and I need to correct it, that nobody should be watering on the weekends. That's not one of the days that anybody has. Don't go after your neighbor if they have new sod. With new sod, you're allowed to water it in every day. You have to, but that's the only exception. So.
Okay, well, looks like that time where I have to go. Am I getting back here again next week?
I don't know. What is next week? March 2nd?
Yes. Are you free?
I believe so.
It may be you and Bernie, because I have, believe it or not, a conference that I have to assist with running all day.
You notice how he only tells me these things like when we're online?
Sorry. I'll have to double check to see if the 10 to 11, basically I'm running a whole bunch of Zoom rooms and managing them. If I don't have one between 10 and 11, I'll be on here. Otherwise, you guys may get special co-host Bernie, Master Gardener
Cool.
Bernie.
Cool.
And Bernie should be doing Facebook Live again this afternoon. Not positive, but he likes it, and everybody likes it.
He does.
So.
Yes.
So be sure to check our Facebook page later on today. And Teresa says,
Yay.
Yay.
Yay for Bernie.
Watch Bernie. Give him a thumbs up. Give him a like. Give a nice comment. All those help to get the post to go further and wider.
Mm-hmm.
And yes,
I like when Bernie's on.
And Teresa does a great job with the camera also. Teresa's our behind the scenes person.
When Bernie's on, I just have to get him started and then I can just sit back.
There you go. Just turn it over to him.
Yes.
Okay, well, hey, everyone. It was great. And somebody will be on here again next Thursday at 10 a.m. So everybody please tune in. If you have any questions between now and then, email me, email Lily, and please be sure to like this video when it shows up on your Facebook feed. If you are watching us by way of YouTube, please be sure to give us the thumbs up, little like, and also subscribe so that every time I go ahead and schedule the next one, you're going to get a notification. That way you never miss us.
And if you want to know more about vegetable gardening, what should you do, Dr. Lester?
Practice.
No. Watch your recorded video.
Yes, I will be posting that on Facebook.
Practice.
The YouTube version is done, so I will put that on Facebook just as soon as I get a chance early this afternoon.
He got really comfortable in that class. I think you would enjoy it. He says he asks people who call him, like, what is your problem with your vegetable garden?
Yeah, and I think we're going to start doing something on Facebook Live every Monday morning.
Okay.
Class update. You know, we have some new invasive lizards I keep getting emails and see articles about. Plenty of stuff to talk about. Plenty to do first thing Monday morning at about 10:30, I think.
That's first thing.
Well, no, first thing.
I'm not worth 3 hours.
Started meetings at 9.
Yes.
Well, if we do it at 10, that guarantees the meetings won't run too late. So yeah, maybe we'll do it at 10. Sorry, guys, got to run. Got to go do a class online. So we're going to do something. Follow us on Facebook. Go to hernandoextension.com and keep on top of everything we have to offer because we're always coming up. Obviously, we're coming up with some wacky new ideas. So it's going to get exciting. They haven't called for me yet, but they will in just a moment. So thanks again, everybody, and everybody have a wonderful week.
Good to see everyone.
Enjoy the wonderful weekend coming up.
We will see you. I'll see you next week.
Okay.